I ate from rubbish bins. I slept underneath bridges. Aside from using drugs, I'd already been on the altar. I'd already spoken about salvation. I knew that my soul was going to hell. I arrived for the first time in the Universal Church 16 years ago. I spent many years in the church. I passed through all the processes until the point that I started to do the work of God on the altar. And I stayed a few years doing the work of God. Many things happened. I did meetings that were full of people. Whether I liked it or not, this brought about a sense of pride. It got to the point that I started to think that I was actually somebody. Because there were external fruits. The only thing was that internally, there wasn't any fruits because I didn't remain. The biggest sign is when you want to blame everyone else for your own errors, for your own weaknesses, for your failings, for your insecurities. Who am I going to blame? I think this was the greatest sign that I didn't have the Holy Spirit. In the beginning, there's always a sense of well-being. I started to prosper a lot. I got to the point of having good financial conditions. I bought cars, vehicles. I really was doing well for myself until I entered into a relationship and I had a desire to get married to this person. I bought a luxury apartment. I started to invest a lot. And after some days, I discovered some things about the woman that I was going to marry. I discovered betrayal, conversations she was having, and from there was my ruin. This led me to a state of depression. Depression brought about an anxiety crisis until I got to the point of having panic attacks. I vomited throughout 90 days until I got to the point that the doctor told me that this was something psychological. I got to the point of taking 17 pills per day. I lost 15 kilos. I saw an officer knocking on my door. I saw my properties, my possessions being taken away. And there was always a real loneliness inside of me. I would try and get rid of this loneliness, going out to parties, using drugs, drinking, getting tattoos. I liked the pain of getting tattoos. I always was very extreme. It wasn't just about getting a small tattoo. I wanted to get many tattoos. I got tattoos of angels on one side, but tattoos of men on the other side. I told them to do my face in the form of a demon, to get it tattooed. It's one of the tattoos I have on my leg. The only thing was that time was passing again, and I had a panic attack in the middle of the road. I started to vomit, feel sick, and I saw a man inside of a car sleeping. I took him out the car so I can get to the hospital in his car. I arrived in the hospital and I was arrested. I spent 6 months inside of a prison. When I left, I lived for a whole year on the streets, homeless. I ate from rubbish bins. I saw people being murdered. I was attacked by 4 guys because of drugs. I used to walk with a bag of medicine on the streets. This is aside from using substances like marijuana, cocaine, alcohol, all the drugs known to man. The worst thing, if I could compare everything that had happened to me, was the emptiness that I had inside of me, the loneliness that I had. Something that externally nothing would be able to feel. I was empty, an empty person. And every day was the same. I was just waiting for the day that I would die. And I knew that my soul was going to hell. Until one morning was different. I didn't know what was going to happen. I only knew afterwards that Bishop Macedo and Dona Esther would speak about me.
Look at that. Before and after. He looked to be in the faith, but he came to this situation, and now he disappeared. We have no news about him.
And I remember a pastor appeared, got into the car of this pastor. Before I knew it, I was inside of a universal church, and it was the time of the campaign of Israel. When I entered into the bathroom, I saw inside of the bin an envelope of the campaign hidden. In that moment, I said, I'm going to get this envelope, and in the same way I'm taking this envelope out of the rubbish, my life is going to come out from the rubbish as well. I walked 5 kilometers from the cathedral to where I used to stay on the streets. On that day, I lied down on the pavement. I looked up at the shelter above. I said, I'm right here now, but I'm no longer from here. And I began to fight. Got baptized in waters. In the beginning, it was difficult. I got all my medication. I put it all on the altar, 300 tablets. And I said, never again am I going to take these things. I need to be set free. And I got free. I generated my sacrifice. I went on the altar. And I put inside of that envelope my life. I took the envelope from the rubbish. Just as my life was in the rubbish, I put my life inside of the envelope, and I put my life, like the envelope from the rubbish, on the altar. Just like that. I went on the altar. I was already different, but I decided in a different way. There was an opportunity. I rented a house, and then came the fast of Daniel. And I took the purpose seriously. Just as my life had been reset, I said, I want your spirit now for real. On the day of the marriage with God, on this day, I was baptized in the Holy Spirit. I bought a ring. I remember the reverence that I had in going to buy that ring. I remember I dressed in my best clothes, and I was baptized in the Holy Spirit. And inside of me, there was a fullness, always this fullness. The fights, they're always going to exist, but there is nothing compared to you having the Holy Spirit, because you have an absolute certainty that He is with you, and He's always going to be with you. Everything began to change. My interior changed completely. I was anxious. I stopped being anxious. I was irritable. I stopped being irritable. I was proud. I stopped being proud. The old Alex would never have said, I'm not born of God. I have peace. I have joy. I have security. I just want people to know that nothing compares to you having the Holy Spirit. Nothing. It's like I said, I would exchange everything that I have lived in these 33 years for that moment, for that day, for that marriage with God. So, when I changed the interior, it changed the external. Today, I have contact with my family. We speak, we laugh. I take Jesus to people through my life, through my testimony. Sometimes I come dressed very well, and they can't imagine. To the point when I show my picture of me on the streets, their penny drops. I see that though my body has marks, my soul is white like snow. There is no internal mark, actually one, and that's the Holy Spirit.